Scarab beetles are a family of beetles within the order known as Coleoptera. It's a very large family. There's about 1,400 species that are present in North America. And as you can see here, there's quite a bit of diversity with regards to the size of the beetles, the color, and even their habits. On the upper left-hand side, we'll take a look at the eastern Hercules beetle. This is one of our largest scarab beetles that we see here in the Maryland area. The adults can get to be about 2 inches in size. There's also sexual dimorphism. You can see the males have that very pronounced horn to them. Now if we look on the lower right hand side, we can take a look at the black turfgrass antennaeus beetle, and that's one of our smallest scarab beetles. It measures to be about 1/4 of an inch in size. So what are some of the other characteristics when we talk about scarabs? Well, one would be their overall body shape. They tend to be very robust in shape when we look at their body shape when we take a look at the scarabs. Another important characteristic is the antenna. They're referred to as lamellate antenna, meaning that they're 3 plates that come together and they will form a very distinctive club when we take a look at scarabs. Now, during the larva stage, the other thing important about scarabs is they form what we call white grubs. And these white grubs are present within the soil, and then typically what they'll do is they'll feed on root systems of different plants and can be extremely damaging to turf grasses. So that's really some of the really important characteristics when we take a look at scarabs. Let's take a look at some of the important scarab pests here in the Maryland area. The Japanese beetle is considered a very predominant insect here in the Maryland area. It's noted by its metallic sheen. It's got that copper color wings to it. It's about 1/2 inch in size. And then we can also notice the pronotum, the head area, tends to be green in color. And then we see these white tufts that expand out. The big problem with the adults is that they will feed on foliage and they cause what we call skeletonization type damage. In the larva stage, they'll be root feeders and can cause a lot of damage to turf grasses. Now they have an annual life cycle, so the adults will be around in, say, that late June and July time period. Another important scarab pest is the Massshaper. This is a reddish-brown beetle. It's about 1/2 inch in size, very similar to the Japanese beetle. Now what's distinct of this particular species between other scarabs that are reddish-brown is that this has this black banding along the head area. And therefore this is why we refer to it as the Massshaper. Now there are several species. There's the southern and the northern Massshaper that we have in the Maryland area. Now the adults really do not damage, they don't feed. It's the larva that does the damage, so we have a lot of root feeding to turf grasses by this particular species. The green June beetle is another important scarab pest that we have in the Maryland area. The adults are relatively large, about 1 inch in size. Overall color is this forest green on the wings, and then on the side of the wings you may notice a brown stripe. If we look on the underside of the insect, you can see these metallic sheen, can be green or gold on the underside of this particular insect. Now the adults will feed on thin-skinned fruit, so we may see some damage to some plant material by way of the adults. The larvae are different than, say, the Japanese beetle and Massshaper in that they actually crawl to the surface. So they will form tunnels, and it's the tunneling that can be damaging to turf grasses. The other really unique thing is the fact that they will crawl on their back. So this is a very interesting insect with regards to that particular characteristic. May beetles or June beetles are another group of scarab pests that we see in the Maryland area. They're within a genus known as Phylophica, and it's a relatively large group. So with that, we can see quite a bit of variation in the size of the insect. It can be anywhere from 1/2 to 1 inch in size. The colors tend to be reddish-brown, but they may be black in color. And the larvae can get to be about 1.5 inches in size, so they tend to be a little bit larger than our Japanese beetle and Massshaper grub. The Asiatic garden beetle is a small reddish-brown beetle. It can be up to be about 3/8 of an inch in size. It is nocturnal, so it does fly at night. And based on light traps, we really haven't picked up too many Asiatic garden beetles when we compare it to something like their Massshaper. The adults will feed on a wide range of plant materials from vegetables to ornamental plants, and the white grub or the larva stage will also feed on various root systems of plants. The Oriental beetle is a small beetle. It's about 3/8 of an inch in size. Its wings will be banded, or some people refer to as a mottling. So you can see kind of a gold and brown banding or mottling occurring, and it will vary between individuals and within populations. This is considered to be a minor pest problem here in the Maryland area.